Welcome, everybody, to Bridging the Gap If These Walls Could Talk. We're interested in having a conversation today with Matt Burns from Four Pillars Painting. I've got Zita Billmann, my co-host from Lux 10, and our guest Matt. So looking forward to a good conversation. Hi, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking forward to a good conversation. So I'm kind of curious to start things out, a good conversation around what you guys do and really kind of what your story is. Like, how did you start your painting business?
Yeah, I mean, everything starts with an idea, right? So I was working in restaurants as the general manager of a restaurant in Southside called Bonfire Food and Drink, if you're familiar with it. Still good friends with the owner. Pandemic hit, needed to kind of figure out what the next step was for me. Hospitality and pandemics don't always blend the way you'd hope them to. So luckily, a friend of mine who's now my business partner, he had a contracting company at the time.
Okay.
He needed painters. I didn't necessarily want to work for my friend, but I'd be interested in working with him. So got set up with some insurance, had a couple contracts ready to go, and haven't really looked back.
Okay.
It's been about, this is our 4th year now.
Yeah. So I talk to contractors all the time, and it's interesting what the pandemic did is either a make or break, right? So you started your business because of it.
Yeah.
There's others who had business that, was chugging along and they were doing, a great job. It was consistent, and then that happened and, everything went south for them and they really kind of hit the brakes and the business shut down almost ultimately.
Right.
So, and there were some people who survived through it, but it was by having mentorship or other peers that they could talk to and kind of say like, hey, this is what's happening to us too. Here's what we're doing. So yeah, it's great to hear that you started that because of, and not as, a result of something else.
Right, right. I mean, community was a big portion of that as well. Just needing to know the right people, meet the right people, network the right way, and then end up with work. We're a painting company, so the work we do is fairly simple. We're not cutting through walls. We're not framing things. We're just putting paint on the walls.
Yeah.
And it's easy enough to get it situated with not much overhead to start. So we were very fortunate in that regard to kind of have the way paved a little bit, but then from there, the world is our oyster.
Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned networking. So, I mean, obviously Lux 10 that's kind of the key component, right? Of bringing together contractors with the consumers and the realtors in that space. So, I know that you're a member of Lux 10 and you've probably made some great connections. Zita, could you talk a little bit about some of the connections that you see for contractors in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for us, me being a real estate agent, we've always are in need to have quality contractors that we can refer our clients to. So this gives us the opportunity to share professionally profiles from the platform that our clients, we feel that if we send along your information or invite them to the platform, that there's a really high chance that they're going to utilize the services from the contractors that are on the platform. So, I mean, we struggled in our industry to have those quality people. So that's where Lux 10 was kind of born from, is saying, wouldn't it be amazing if we could all kind of feed off of each other's business, help each other grow, and have great quality resources to refer back and forth. So we see a lot of the contractors on the platform getting a lot of business from real estate agents, but also from each other. When you're forming those relationships with other painters, maybe in an area that maybe is not ideal for your business, or other layers, so an electrician or a plumber, maybe that you say, we're going to paint the walls on a kitchen they just put in, right? So it's just nice where you're building those relationships with some of the other people on the platform. But yeah, that's a lot of what we've seen through the Lux 10.
Yeah. So Matt, I'm interested to hear of painting, right? It's kind of a broad swath of services that you can provide.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's the sweet spot? Like, where do you guys excel? What's the thing that you're really good at?
Yeah, for us, it's full house interiors. Whether you're moving in or moving out of your house, there's always some level of work that needs to be done, get the house ready to sell or to move into. So when the house is empty and you're looking for that full repaint, ceilings, walls, trim, doors, cabinetry, that's kind of our specialty there.
Okay.
A bit of a larger outfit, so we're not just a solo guy going out trying to make it all happen in a certain time frame. Things are very time sensitive. You don't want to be the one holding up somebody being able to move in because there's other repercussions with that. There could be homeless for a day or two if we're not on the ball. And then same thing with listing. It's all about getting that timing absolutely perfect so we're not the ones causing an issue.
Yeah, so can you tell, like, how many people do you have in your group?
Yeah,
Like,
so
as far as
we
your
got up
team?
to 16 this year,
Wow,
all
that's
in
impressive.
house. Yeah, yeah, it was a little bit chaotic, but we're still young enough to kind of sort through all of that and come out on the other side stronger than ever.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And
So I'm interested to hear. So how do you find 16 people who paint? Is there any background of painting before they come to you? I mean, is it similar to how you started the business? Did you learned along the way, obviously? I mean, do you have people that are coming on board that have never painted before?
We do. It is quite a bit of trial and error. We do look for that experience, whether it's 5, 10 years experience. I think our top guy was in the union for about 15 years,
Okay.
traveling the country. So once you get your name out there a little bit and you have a good reputation, those guys who are those A players, they come and find us at that point. And we're still small enough where we're not getting those resumes every single day, but all you really need is 3 or 4 a year of a real A player to make a difference in not only their lives, but our business, our lives, and everything.
So let's just say I'm a homeowner, right? I just bought
hmm
a house and I want to have you guys come in and paint. Like, do you bring in 2 guys for a job, or what's that crew look like that's going to go in and get the work completed for them?
Yeah, it all depends. Well, first off, congratulations on the purchase, right? That's where we always start with everything because it's an exciting time for people. If you're looking for a full house, let's say it's 2,500 square feet and up, we'd have anywhere from 4 to 6 guys on site
Okay.
every day at 8 a.m., cranking it out until we're finished. Smaller projects, 2 or 3 bedrooms, might only have 2 or 3 guys. Cabinetry, typically 2 or 3 guys as well. So we really try to tailor each contract to the individual needs of
Okay.
the work itself.
So you paint cabinets.
Yep.
Tell me
Yep.
about that, because it's got to be crazy,
Yeah.
the work that goes into that, right?
Right. It can definitely get pretty intricate depending on what the ultimate outcome is. And that's really what dictates absolutely everything we do. What is our client's ultimate outcome? Sometimes it is going into a rental. Sometimes they are moving into a $3-4 million house. So we kind of play those jobs a little bit differently, just in terms of what we would do prep wise, who we're sending there, and how quickly we can guarantee getting it done. Cabinets are fun because it is a little bit more slow paced
Uh-huh.
because you can't skip any steps. So the way we start it, break everything apart, get it all labeled, degrease everything. God only knows what's happening in that kitchen, the amount of cooking, heavy spices that could be used. Get it all degreased and then sand it down. Every nook and cranny needs to get a nice scuff sand on it so we know that we're creating a new finish,
Right.
not just layering on top of layers and
Yeah.
layers and layers.
I've seen some cabinets that people get painted, and it's like, a little ding, then they've got this huge peel mark that happens down the middle,
Right.
and they just don't know how to fix it. So
Right.
that's the secret sauce. Is it sounds like if you give it that scuff coat that you're talking about,
hmm
that creates some adhesion, and I'm sure there's multiple layers that you're putting on, right? I'm sure
Right.
you're priming.
Right.
What's it like coming from like a stained oak cabinet that are prevalent in the Pittsburgh marketplace,
Mhm.
right? You probably see them all the time.
All the time.
How many people are moving to painting those or resurfacing?
Quite a few. I mean, I always say wood never goes out of style. You can always match around it as well. So some of these older Pittsburgh houses, who knows how much money I've talked myself out of just by saying, "Don't touch the wood, please don't touch the wood." It's beautiful, but it's really about the right products there. If it is a stained wood, you need a good stain blocking primer, 1 or 2 coats of that. Sanding in between coats creates a very nice, smooth, silky finish, and then using the right enamel as a top coat. And that'll really create some longevity with the cabinets, totally revamp the look of the kitchen, or, whether it's a vanity set in the closets as well, can totally revamp the look of whatever area those cabinets are in.
That's awesome to hear.
typically, when you paint a cabinet, how long does it last?
It should last up to 10 years,
Okay.
assuming, there's some different factors going into that. If the kitchen doesn't have good exhaust for when you're cooking, then those cabinets are going to show a little bit dirtier a little bit sooner. But with the products we can get today, it should last easily 10 years, no problem.
Is that something you can touch up too? Like if they do get a nick?
You can. We always spray cabinets so we don't roll anything onto cabinets. So to match that finish, you do want to have it sprayed. Typically, to match that finish, you want to do the whole surface as well, not just one little touch up and head for the hills. We want to make sure that everything is done properly because it's a reputational game at the end of the day.
Sure.
You're not taking a little paint stick like they do on vehicles, right? You ding your fender in the parking lot and you go back with the little paint stick and cover it up. That's
not so much, not so much. Might blow a few fuses if I ever saw that. So yeah.
So let's shift the conversation a little bit. So I'm interested to hear, across how you find business. Like, how do people track you down? Like, how are you getting the majority of your business? Is it your website? Is it social media platforms? Word of mouth? Like, what's that look like for you when people find you? Hey, I want to get my house painted. There's the yellow pages, right? Where are you?
Right.
Where do they find you?
Everything starts with Google or hopefully Lux 10. As that continues to grow. So referrals are always going to be the warmest leads that we can possibly get. So again, kind of going back to the reputation, a network like Lux 10 having such a strong reputation, if we're on that platform and we're doing the work with those realtors and other contractors, those leads kind of call us expecting to buy right then and there, which we're happy to accommodate. Other than that, you can find us on our website, Google Business Profiles. Google kind of controls the whole contracting world as far as I'm concerned. It all starts with good SEO. Feed the beast, and we do. Any sort of project that we're finishing, we like to put pictures up on Google, show pictures of our team, and then kind of funnel those same posts through all of our different social media platforms.
Yeah. So which is your preferred social media platform? Like, where do most of your clients find you?
Most of our clients do find us through Google.
Okay.
We have a lot of fun with Instagram as well because you can personalize it a little more. It doesn't have to be super dressed up. Even just throwing the camera up and saying, hey, this is Matt. We're doing some cabinets today. Check it out. And we get some really good engagement from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Zita, as you're doing a walkthrough with folks, is that a general conversation? Like, hey, I love the house, but I hate the paint.
Always. It's always top of mind. I mean, usually when people go in, and I have a house right now, I have some clients that are buying, and the whole house is like a faux paint. And it's like a textured faux paint. Have you had something like that? Like, that seems like it's a little bit more labor intensive. Like, you have to sand that, scrape it. What do you do in that situation?
Sand it all down, prime it up with a thicker primer, whether it's a high build primer that some new builds will use. Really need to get those walls as smooth as we possibly can. But then again, it's all about setting that expectation with the clients. If you want it silky smooth, we might have to do 4 coats of paint, 1 coat of primer to really, I don't want to say cake it on, but really work it into those imperfections that you'll find in the wall. But at the same time, we live in Pittsburgh, so if you find a perfectly 90-degree angle wall and corner, then we'll give you your paint job for free if that's the case.
Right. Well, I'm sure. Like, I see a lot of homes I go into, and they've had 20 years ago, all the colors, every room, the reds, the greens, the yellows, every room's a different color. And now a lot of people, I'm sure you find, they want cohesive, right?
Yep.
All 3 floors. They want everything the same color, and maybe a bedroom or 2 with an accent, right? That to make it that special space. But I find throughout the home, most people do want a fully same color all over. All 3 floors.
Sure.
So
especially now. I mean, it was grays and light beiges were in for a while, but now we are seeing a lot more off-white colors because then you can accent it throughout the seasons. In the springtime, you're going to want something green, something blue hanging on the walls, whether that's plants, pictures, whatever it may be. And then in the fall, get out the orange for the pumpkins and, that season as well. Move right into Christmas season, and it'll all match with something that has a clean surface.
What do you find is your top color? Like, what's the color of the season when you say off-whites? Like, from our realtor perspective, a lot of people say, what color?
Yeah. So there's a few off-whites that are very, very popular. We use Sherwin-Williams paints pretty much exclusively. So they have Sherwin-Williams Alabasters, super, super popular. West Highland Whites, super, super popular. And they'll have a little bit of different undertones between the two. But just off the top of my head, those are 2 of the ones we're using the absolute most of. And they're great. They're great, clean colors, can get the sheen that you want. So you can still kind of work around just color alone. Different lightings require different sheens to make sure the room is the most cohesive. But yeah, those 2 for sure.
Good tip.
So it sounds like,
Thanks.
you think of paint, right? And, my kids, when they're growing up, they're finger painting, right?
Right.
So, it sounds like there's a lot more involved. Instead of just saying like, hey, we like this color, there's a lot more planning from a complete environment standpoint. So like from a design perspective, like what does that conversation look like with a client or potential client? Like how many times do you walk into, your first walkthrough and they say, hey, here's what I want. I want this, I want eggshell. And, they're rattling off the brand, the color, they see something at Home Depot that
Mm-hmm.
they want to use. And then you come in and go, what's that look like? What are those conversations?
Yeah, definitely happens from time to time. We try to make it as simple and hands off for our clients as we possibly can because once you do start working into the different colors, you can get absolutely lost. Have an idea of one or two colors that you might want to use, and all of a sudden you're introduced to 7 more colors. It's just
Mm-hmm.
going to complicate the process for everybody. At the end of the day, there's only so many different whites that you can choose from. So we try to keep it simple wherever we can. That is one of our pillars, simplicity. So we're fortunate to work very closely with Sherwin-Williams and actually get them in touch with an interior designer free of charge.
Okay.
They'll be able to point them in the better direction than we can just because of our size still. But a lot of that is trial and error. We're happy to bring over samples, put those samples on different walls and different lightings, make sure that the client is pleased with that before we go ahead and paint all the walls in the house.
So they get to test the water, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest fear, right? When somebody's going to have their house
Choosing the wrong
painted.
color.
Right,
So
Right.
you
right.
walk
Thing.
into Sherwin and they've got this little 2x2 square that's like, oh, hey, this color looks great.
Yes.
You take it home and it's like, I'm going to hold it up against the wall that's this monster colored wall that contrasts with it in the first place.
Right.
So now you're trying to make a decision based on a 2x2 swatch, and it's like you go back and then you buy a little quart and then you paint it, and it's like, a grainy finish, right? Because they haven't prepared the surface
Right.
or,
Right.
I think that's the challenge as a homeowner, especially thinking like, hey, I've got to pick the right color because it's going to be there on all 4 walls. How many times do you get done with a job and you walk back to the end walkthrough and go, hey, here's, we pulled the curtain back, here it is. And they go, it's not what I wanted.
Right. In the 400 projects that we've completed the last 4 years, it's only happened once.
Okay.
So, a lot of times we do try to reassure that depending on the color you're choosing, it's all about the lighting in the room and the decor you're hanging up as well. So if something's coming off a little too harsh, change the bulbs. Maybe you need something a little warmer, something softer that way, but it can change the entire look of the color that we're putting on.
I find like a lot of colors tend to lean towards yellows or greens depending on the lighting.
Right.
And a lot of people don't want that,
Mhm.
right? They have envisioned what they saw in the store or saw on some picture, and then they get it in their space and it doesn't look quite the same. But I think that's where that expert from Sherwin-Williams comes in and can really help out with guidance because they have the keen eye. So I love that about Sherwin-Williams. I've recommended a lot of my clients to connect with them. They normally, will come in and help out with guidance
Right.
because a lot of people have something in their mind, but it's usually not what actually
So
happens.
it's
Sure.
interesting to me, and so I had a former brother-in-law who was a painter paper hanger. That's what he did by trade, and just the vision that he had into the colors. You go into Sherwin and you start with a bucket of white,
Mhm.
and then they push the button, and it's like all of these different colors that squirt in, and then they shake it and mix it up, and it's this beautiful color that's exactly what's on the little square. But I've seen this reel, and every time I watch it, it's like crazy to me how this guy's doing it. But it's this guy who's sitting there at a tabletop, and he's got this, all of these different little, drip here, drip of this, and it turns out to be this gorgeous green metallic. So I think a lot of people see like this, white bucket that they're getting like, oh, I don't know about that. They're anxious, they're nervous, and then they hit the button and all of these colors squirt in and it's exactly what it's supposed to be. But like how many people struggle with color selection because there are so many? I mean, you guys probably have a couple, like you rattled off a couple of the off-whites. There's probably some go-tos, right? The trend or,
Right.
What do you see for like color selection though? Is there like off of the wall, like, oh wow, that's a crazy color, but it's your walls, so it's your taste. I'll do it.
Yeah.
What do you see there?
kind of is all across the board. You know, some clients do struggle because they have this perfect vision that they want their house to look like. Your house is your castle, so you don't want to take that decision lightly, especially if you're investing all this money, whether it's cabinets, for instance, not the cheapest thing to refinish cabinets. So you really do want to get that right the first time. So slow and steady wins the race. Just because we say we're coming a week from now, if you're not absolutely decided on your color, we'll say, okay, we'll come in 2 weeks. Do you want us to bring some samples? And we really try to hold their hand, but I can't make the decision for those clients because I'm not the one that lives with it. So we just give them as much information as we can, as much time as they need to sort through that. And then once that is ready, we can then start the project.
So Matt, are you typically the one that goes to the house to basically assess the project and come up with the bid, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I do all of our quoting right now, all sales and marketing, and then my business partner handles the finances and the business operation as well. So we both kind of split responsibilities when we need to, but I really enjoy meeting with clients, walking through houses, seeing what the trends are at the same time, what we're covering up versus what we're going to put on. Right now, we're covering all the burgundy accent walls from the early 2000s.
Right?
And it's funny, though, it's making its way right back around with some of these darker greens, darker blues.
Those are nice colors. So I see a lot
yeah.
of those navies and greens
Mhm.
in the houses,
Mhm.
especially like in offices or
Right.
like a kitchen island or something like that, or
Right.
even right out the outer cabinets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Seeing people being a little bit more, a lot of that in Swickley. We talked a little bit about Swickley this morning, but yeah, that's a good spot where a lot of people do enjoy some of those deep, rich colors.
Right.
So
But
I'm
it's
sure
the
you see
color
that.
pop too, right? I mean, if you're going to have a standard white, to your point earlier, and then there's accents,
Mm-hmm.
well, why wouldn't you want something to pop like an island or maybe a certain portion of a wall? Like I have this nook, we have a bulkhead that goes around our kitchen, and I've always said like, man, would it be cool if that was a different color that created some pop? Because we've got like a very gray cabinet, uppers and lowers, and we've got then the quartz countertop that's the finish with some graining on it, and but I want that pop of something, and I haven't figured out if it's tile, if it's paint, if it's a color, a texture. I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing, and then I battle back and forth with my wife over like, oh, we don't need to do anything. We'll just add accents on the countertop, right? So, or pictures or accessories, or we were out at a flea market over the last weekend, and she bought this antique scale that now she has a candle sitting on top of, and it's really unique and cool. And so like accessorizing, as opposed to me not getting to paint or do the finish that I want to.
Well, Matt will
So
gladly come over and check it
Right.
out if
Yeah.
you need
Give
some
me a
paint,
call
right?
anytime. I'm ready to rock. So
it's an
yeah.
ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
So for
It
sure.
is. It is. It's not one to take lightly either. You really do want to make these decisions the right way and not just jump into something that you're not convinced that you're absolutely in love with.
Yeah. So answer this for me, and I'm curious. So how many full house jobs do you do versus somebody that wants to just paint a single wall or a single room? Or, we talk about, realtors that are doing a walkthrough, and people have a vision as they start to shop for this property, and they go through and they go, oh, I'd love to do this, or we want to knock this wall out and paint this, or like, what does that look like? I mean, how do you...
Yeah, the majority of it is just refreshing a couple rooms or doing a cabinet job, painting all the doors in the house, something like that. It's a very invasive process. You have these guys in your house for 1-2 weeks at a time. They're moving everything, they're touching everything. We're doing our best to put it back exactly how we found it. Your bedroom's going to be taken over for a day or two. Your kitchen's going to be taken over if you're doing cabinets for a week at least. So it is a very invasive process. So most of the time it is some smaller projects, but then, our bread and butter is those full house repaints, whether you're getting the house ready to list for sale or just about to move in. A lot of times even we'll find clients who are thinking about selling in 5 or 6 years, and they start readying the house now. We get it painted, then we'll do the floors, then we'll do a bathroom or something like that. Try to maximize the return that they'll get on the sale.
Right.
So it definitely fluctuates, but most of it is just 2 or 3 bedrooms that we're painting at a time. Sometimes you have a leak in the ceiling that gets repaired, and then you think, okay, now's a good time to get a little bit more work done and change the trend and change the look of your house, because it can totally revamp how your house looks, how it feels, how you feel about it. And We love being a part of that.
Yeah, and I think too, like when people are happy with that end result, there's a confidence that comes just in their personal life. If I've got a very warm and welcoming and, comfortable house now because I had new paint, like new paint's like changing your clothes, right? You go out and go shopping and you buy a new sweater or blouse or something and it's like, oh, I feel really good. It's the same feeling when you walk into a freshly painted house. Like
Mhm.
it changes the dynamic. I mean, we went from when we moved in, like pitch black family room, and it just blew my mind. And we bought the house not for the paint colors, but for the house. And we're like, well, we're definitely going to change that. And, crazy like sunflowers on the wallpaper that was a border that was around it. And we're like, okay, there's a lot that's coming. But, 20 some years ago when we bought the house, we painted it like a very olive green color. But then we migrated into a blue color with some blue accents, and just it was so dark and dreary. And we didn't realize until we went to a stark white, our kitchen and family room, like it's all, flowing room to room, and it's the same color in both places. But every time I walk into there, like I feel like fresh and clean because of that bright white. And, it pops some of the wood accents and it highlights the countertop and the cabinets. And so like I'm sure people have to get this feeling like when you walk out,
Mhm.
they just are so excited and they can't wait to spend time in that space.
Right.
Those kind of people, like how frequently are they giving you a referral for, hey, I feel amazing because of this paint job that they did. What do you see for like referrals from your existing customers that you've given them that type of a feeling?
We get quite a few referrals, and a lot of that has nothing to do with the paint itself, to be honest. It's all about the service we provide. Friendly teams, clear communication, meeting those deadlines that sometimes we're just creating out of thin air because we have a schedule to keep on as well. So it's really the paint is almost secondary. It's about trusting who you're working with, trusting that they're going to do right by you, and then if they're comfortable with that, they're going to tell everybody. Everybody needs paint sooner or later. Sometimes it can lead to a very big commercial contract simply because we took our time, did things properly, didn't make them feel uncomfortable, and helped them every step of the way.
I love that. I mean, the service piece of it is so important, and the trust, right, that goes
It's
with that.
everything.
So it is. That's the root of your business,
Mhm.
and that's why you're going to get referrals. I mean, yes, like you said, the paint secondary. Although I will say, from a realtor standpoint, paint is one of the best investments that someone can make in their home. Whether you're just moving in or getting ready for sale, it's the best investment you can make because it does make someone feel that fresh feeling of walking through a freshly painted house that's in pristine condition. Doesn't matter what your furniture is, it doesn't matter, right, about all of the other ancillary things, but the house feels in great condition. I always recommend to people whenever they're going to paint, right before you sell, don't rehang anything back on the walls,
Right.
right? Because now for the consumer coming in saying the next homeowner, how great, I can move right into this house
Mhm.
and now I can put the things where I want them.
Right.
I've been in many homes where someone takes a picture off the wall and it's outlined
Yeah.
because the house hasn't been painted in
yeah.
so long. I mean, so you put some fresh paint on those walls and now you feel like you're moving into a new house, even though the kitchen might need remodeled or the bathroom, right? The
Yeah.
paint makes a huge difference.
Very big difference. I mean, I always think of it, for lack of a better way to say it, it's a very primal thing. Your home is your castle, it's your cave, it's home base. Everything starts at the home. So if you can make a decision bringing your vision to life, you're going to feel good about that inherently. And it's really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the outside. Tell me a little bit about exterior paint because I know in my career I've come across some painters. They say, "Oh, we just don't do outside work." Right? So you guys do outside work.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like from a standpoint of like porches, or what type of materials do you paint on the outside? Is now we have a lot of different finishes, and people
Right.
have old metal siding, or they might have hardy plank, which you can paint, but
Right.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Or brick, or I don't know if you do
yeah,
brick paint.
yeah.
Like I've had some people that would say they want to whitewash something.
Oh, yeah. And then again, and it kind of all goes back to the type of product that we're using. Exterior is a lot more intensive work, going up on heights. Sometimes you need a boom lift, sometimes it's a scissor lift, depending on what the yard looks like. You don't want to leave things up overnight, whether it's a ladder or scaffolding, anything like that. Totally different set of challenges than interior paint, and then you do need to be aware of the elements that the paint's going to have to withstand. But it's also different in the sense where it's not just everything gets 2 coats, 3 coats. It's all about millage thickness on the material itself. So sometimes you can spray it up, get it done in 1 coat. Sometimes you might need to hit a couple areas a little bit more to make sure you have that full color. But again, everything at the end of the day is sand it, patch it, prime it, paint it. If it is brick, then a little bit different. You want to use a mineral paint, something that's a little more breathable, something that is very durable, because bricks can kind of shift over time. Same thing with vinyl siding as well. It's kind of created to warp. So the product that we use makes the difference for all that, for the durability, the longevity of the finished product itself. Could be a maze to sort through sometimes, but luckily we work with really good suppliers that kind of have those answers at the ready. And even if I'm on a job site, not exactly sure which way we need to go with it, I'll call my rep and get the answer right then and there for the client.
It's great that you guys can do that. It can really changes the outside
Oh
of
yeah.
how a home can look when you have someone that paints the outside or changes the brick. Where you're like, oh, that brick was kind of orange. Maybe it wasn't as attractive. And now all of a sudden they do it like a whitewashed
Yeah.
and then they throw some
Right.
shutters up. It looks like a brand new built house. It's amazing.
Curb
So-
appeal can go from 0 to 100 in a week. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's exciting.
Mhm.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you're interested in any paint work that needs done, reach out to Matt at 4 Pillars Paints. Zita, thanks for being on. Appreciate you
having
as
me.
my co-host. And Matt, it's great to have you here. It's great to hear your story and be part of what you guys do and learn more about your company.
Really appreciate your time today. Awesome world we live in.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.
you.
Looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Come back and see us.